Today I will be talking about the luckiest or unluckiest woman who survived the Titanic and a Nazi prison. Dorothy Winifred Gibson, born Dorothy Winifred Brown, was born in New Jersey on the 17th of May, 1889. From the age of 17, she performed on stage as a singer and a dancer in several theatre productions. Later, she also became a model, modelling for a famous artist called Harrison Fisher. Dorothy was one of his favourite models, and her image was often seen on postcards, merchandising products, and even on the covers of Cosmopolitan magazine. During this time, Dorothy met and married a pharmacist named George Henry Battier Jr., but the couple soon separated and were divorced by 1913. As early as 1911, at the age of 22, Dorothy began appearing in movies, starting out as an extra, but soon taking the lead roles in a series of film. She was naturally comedic and a huge hit. On the 17th of March 1912, Dorothy and her mother Pauline took a trip around Europe. One of the producers from the film studio she was working on, whom Dorothy was having an affair with, called her back to work on a series of pre-planned films. Dorothy began a 6-year affair with the married movie tycoon Jules Brulatour, who was 19 years her senior. While in Paris, they booked their first-class tickets on the maiden voyage of the RMS Titanic and boarded at Cherbourg on the 10th of April. On the night the ship sank, Dorothy had spent a pleasant Sunday evening playing a bridge with a couple of friendly New York bankers. At 11:40 p.m., Dorothy returned to the stateroom she shared with her mother. While in her first-class bedroom, she heard and felt a long-drawn, sickening crunch. Although she was unalarmed, as the Titanic was considered unsinkable at the time, she decided to investigate nonetheless, and noticed that the deck was lopsided. She rushed back to her room to fetch her mother, and the pair returned to the boat deck. Dorothy and her mother escaped from the ship on the first lifeboat, and given how quiet it was on the boat deck at the time, she asked the New York bankers to join them. The lifeboat they were in had a hole at the bottom, and ice-cold water leaked in and threatened to completely flood the boat. The passengers clumped together to fill the hole with their belongings. Dorothy told the moving picture world, "I will never forget the terrible cry that rang out from people who were thrown into the sea and others who were afraid for their loved ones." Dorothy reenacted the experience only 5 days after it had happened, when she starred in the first film about the disaster, called Saved from the Titanic. Dorothy even wore the same clothes she had been wearing when the ship sank, a white silk dress underneath a cardigan and a polo coat, and not long afterwards, Dorothy gave up acting. Her affair with the film producer was made public in 1913 when Dorothy accidentally struck and killed a man while driving his car. Dorothy was taken to court, where it was revealed she was the mistress of Brulatour, and so his wife filed for divorce. Afterwards, Dorothy would go on to marry the man, of which she had been a mistress to. This was done to savour his reputation, although her marriage only lasted 2 years before they separated. Dorothy never remarried, and she left New York for Paris, in the hopes of a fresh start and a quiet life with her mother. Not only had she survived the sinking of the Titanic and literally gotten away with murder, but the universe had other plans for her. But she was then to go on to be detained in a Nazi prison. Dorothy and her mother had either found themselves trapped or had willingly stayed in Nazi-occupied territory. The pair were rumoured to have been fascist sympathisers and potentially even Nazi spies. By the spring of 1944, Dorothy had denied the rumours, but soon after was arrested as an anti-Fascist agitator and jailed in a Milan prison, which she described as a living death. A double agent, Dr. Hugo, helped to smuggle her out of prison, where she likely would have died otherwise, under the pretense that she was a Nazi spy. Dorothy escaped to Switzerland, where she was interrogated, and it was never determined whether she was a real Nazi spy or not. After the war, Dorothy returned to Paris, but after her eventful life of surviving the sinking of the Titanic, killing a man, being humiliated by her affair, and then surviving a Nazi prison, she was left traumatized and died shortly afterwards in her hotel room of a heart attack. She was only 56 years old. Please comment, like and subscribe if you wish for more stories, and leave your suggestions below and I will endeavour to cover them.